Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America. Great to have you with us on the program today. As mentioned, Charles Marcus, our guest in the program. Charles, originally from the UK, now based in Toronto, Canada, is a much sought-after, high-content motivational and business speaker and trainer, recognized by Hunger to Succeed as one of the top 60 motivational speakers in the world. He's the author of the best-selling book, Success is Not a Spectator Sport, which has been translated into 27 languages. His keynote presentations have taken him all over the country with clients like McDonald's, General Motors, Procter & Gamble, Leela Hotels in India, Sony, Mercedes-Benz, Kodak, Special Olympics, and American Express. And Charles Marcus joining us on This Week in America. Charles, welcome to the program. It's great to have you with us today.
Well, thank you, Rick, and thank you for the opportunity. Looking forward to it.
Really enjoyed the book, Success is Not a Spectator Sport. And let's start with your personal story because it inspires so many people. I mentioned that you are an in-demand international speaker. You travel around and people are fascinated by your story and what you had to overcome. Today, you're one of the top 60 motivational speakers in the world. It wasn't that long ago when you spent a number of years with a stuttering problem and you would go days at a time, literally in silence. Talk about the problem you had and how you sort of had a vision that you'd be up in front of people speaking someday and doing it successfully. Talk about your background because it really is fascinating.
Well, thank you, Rick. Firstly, I just want to sort of backtrack and say everybody has a story as long as we take time to listen to people's stories. So I'm fortunate, as you say, to have traveled all over the world. However, I really enjoy to ask other people, and I would encourage your viewers to also, when they're traveling or out somewhere, find out something about somebody else, because life is fascinating and life is interesting. So the second thing you mentioned, yes, so quite honored to be in the top 60 motivational speakers in the world. I make a joke about it. It's the only time in my life I've been happy to come in 41 at something. So there you go. So my story, basically, you asked me, about a vision and things. I would love to speak to you and tell you I had a vision that I wanted to be a professional speaker and, all that good stuff. The reality, Rick, is that I struggled from the age of 4 to my early 30s with a terrible speech impediment. Very quickly, the backstory is I grew up in Manchester, England, and I was out for a day in a forest about 30 miles from my home with my mother and father, and somehow I got lost and separated from them in this huge forest, and nobody could find me. The rescuers found me about 14, 16 hours later at 4 o'clock in the morning. So that was really the sort of catalyst for my stuttering. And I guess, again, and I'm an honest guy, Manchester guy, I have to say that for many, many years, I was always a victim instead of the victor. So I always, felt sorry for myself, made excuses. Obviously, it wasn't a pleasant situation, out to be humiliated and embarrassed and, people write you off. But I have to tell you, I didn't have a vision, Rick. I was just trying to get through day to day, and really my vision was very, very limited in those days. As I got older, obviously I did have a vision out to get my speech together, but I think the bottom line is I lacked the courage to do something. In life, what I find is, sort of like the book, is you can either be a participant or you can be a spectator, and you can't be both. You can either wait for things to happen or you can make things happen. And for many years, I didn't. I always portrayed myself as a victim instead of the victor. character I wanted to be.
Charles Marcus, our guest on This Week in America. Information on Charles is available at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. You can link on directly to Charles's website, which is the letter C, Marcus, MARCUS.com. The book we're talking about is Success is Not a Spectator Sport, talking about what Charles had to overcome. And when he gets up in front of people and he speaks about what's needed to be successful, he's talking from firsthand knowledge. And let's first of all define success. What exactly is that? And I know that in the book, this is where basically we start. We sort of, each of us define our own level of success. Is that how we get started?
Yeah, absolutely, Rick. I mean, everybody defines success in a different way and genre. It doesn't have to be material. It can be being a great mom, being a great parent, a great friend. So many people define it as money. I don't define it as money at all. I mean, success is happiness, is health. So to me, I think you have to define firstly what you want. How do you define success? What is important to you, to your family? What are your values? What are your hopes? What are your aspirations? And then you really have to break it down into goal setting. And if I may, very quickly, I just want to share with you 4 principles of success I share in the book and I share with my audiences, and I'll just simplify them for you. The first one you've mentioned already is vision. Some stage you have to have a dream. You have to have a vision. So the dreams are great, Rick, but you're only as successful as the dreams you dare to live, and not necessarily the dreams you dare to dream. Because a dream is a first start. That's wonderful. But then you got to take it out to the next step. Where do you want to go with your life? Who's going to be on your team? How are you going to get there? Because today it's not enough to just dream. We must act. It's not enough to just think. We must plan. Second principle is courage, something I lacked for many years. As I said before, I was always waiting for something to happen instead of making things happen. And courage is really, to me, is the most noble of principles. It's getting out of your comfort zone. It's not accepting the status quo. It's doing things that make you uncomfortable. I say courage is being scared to death and doing it anyway. Third principle is responsibility. Many people can help you along the way, but ultimately we have to take responsibility for our lives. We have to be accountable. No excuses, no spin zone. Do it. And fourthly is commitment. Vision is great, super with courage, fabulous with responsibility, but ultimately you have to have that commitment to excellence. And finally, in my opinion, from speaking to many, many people don't fail or succeed, or they don't succeed through lack of education, creativity, or knowledge. I believe people who don't succeed in life fail through one simple thing, Rick. They don't take action. Many people talk a good game, but few people play a good game, sir.
You know, it's interesting. We're talking about the new book, Success is Not a Spectator Sport. With us on the program, international speaker Charles Marcus. His website is the letter C, Marcus, MARCUS.com. Link on directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. His Twitter handle is C, capital letter C, excuse me, as in Charles M. Canada. M is capital, and both C's are capital, Charles M. Canada. The Twitter handle. You've got our website, thisweekinamerica.us. You can link on directly, also get an email directly where you can contact Charles. It's interesting, you talk about goal setting, and everybody sets goals, especially in December of every year we set goals.
Right.
And you say what separates those from actually who follow through successfully and those who don't are actually going back and reviewing those goals. Talk about that, because we all set goals, but some are able to follow through, others are not. What makes that different?
I believe what really makes a difference is, do you really want it? Do you really want what you say you want to do? And goals are important. I use a quote by Brian Tracy in the book. He says, goals in writing are dreams with deadlines. So what I say is break your goals down, because sometimes a goal may seem impossible. If you want to run a marathon, for instance, don't focus on the marathon, focus on a mile or a kilometer at a time. Think long term, but you've got to take those small steps out for the inevitable setbacks to happen, and you must have a plan B. I always say, speak to somebody you respect, you love, you like and things, and make yourself, as I said in those 4 principles, accountable. Take baby steps along the way, reward yourself for the good times, and if you fail or you have a setback and things, don't let it stop you. But if you read and look at people who we aspire to be, famous people, read about these people, books, the libraries are wonderful, wonderful things. I know I'm talking in 2016 here about a library, however, I'm old school. But it's one thing to set goals, it's another thing to complete them. And I set out a whole chapter sort of in the book on how to set goals, how to keep yourself accountable, how to keep yourself focused. But without goals, it ain't going to happen.
And you talk about the benefit of having a role model. Harry Palmer was a role model of yours. That's not a name most people would recognize. It was someone who was in your world, and you looked at him and you saw characteristics, attributes that you could copy. Talk about having a role model and the importance of that.
Well, sort of today, I think they use the word a mentor or a role model. I mean, I've had several people over the years have come in and out of my life and have been sort of have been role models. And even today I had role models. I think it's important. I think it's very important to hang around with people who are more successful, who are smarter than you, and learn from them. And I've always tried to hang out with people who are better than me, smarter than me, more educated than me, more successful than me, and I have been like a sponge. I just want to learn off people.
Charles Marcus.
So I would encourage all your listeners, especially young people listening, find a person who you admire, who you respect, and ask them, would they be a mentor, a role model for you? Because we can always learn off other people. I say, knowledge is the accumulation of all the facts, and wisdom is in its simplification.
Charles Marcus, our guest on This Week in America. The book we're talking about is Success is Not a Spectator Sport. His website is cmarcus.com, the letter C, Marcus, MARCUS.com. The Twitter handle is Charles M. Canada, C, M, and C are all capitalized. All of this at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. A couple minutes left in the program. I know one of the things that you talk about is discipline. Talk about how important that is, because it's real easy to get off track, especially when you've had a setback along the way. And you talk in the book about basically every stepping stone you had setbacks you had to deal with to get to the next one. Talk about discipline and how important that is and how we can find that.
How do you find discipline? Is that a great question? Discipline has to come from within. It's doing stuff that you don't want to do. Because if you don't have the discipline out to to relay a goal or to have a vision or to do something you have to do. I think you just have to, again, sort of what I do is I'm a risk and reward type of guy. So if I have to do something and I know I have to be really disciplined about it, what's the risk and what is the reward? But I believe all successful people in life in any genre have discipline. And how do you find discipline? It's got to come again from within. I know that sounds very simple, and I said to you earlier, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Find discipline, however you need, through a role model, through reading, through risk and reward, whatever turns you on. But if you don't have discipline, again, it's not going to happen. Jim Rohn said, discipline is the bridge between accomplishment and goals, and I second that.
The book is called Success is Not a Spectator Sport. It is a step-by-step guide. It is very practical. It is very easy to understand, simplistic in terms of like, okay, this is what you need to do. These are some of the obstacles you'll face. I know that because I've gone through those. This is how you overcome them. Charles Marcus, our guest on the program, an international speaker. And if you're interested in talking to Charles about possibly speaking to a group that you've got, you can go to his website, which is cmarcus.com, the letter C, marcus.com. And you can get all that information by linking onto our website, thisweekinamerica.us. A couple minutes left in the program. It's interesting you chose sales when you got into the workforce, and that scares a lot of people because you're facing rejection. It's like on top of everything else, I'm going to have a whole lot of people telling me no. And you said you learned early on that basically when somebody says no, you interpret that to mean they're just asking for more information. How do you deal with rejection and go forward and be successful in sales and other aspects of life?
Fear is a reaction and courage is a decision, Rick. Nobody likes to be rejected, obviously, but you know what? It happens to all of us, and what I do, I use it as a stepping stone. As you say, it's just a request for more information, next. And one thing I've learned as far as rejection and fear goes, you can't take it personally. So if you, again, we're using this word success, especially in business, anybody listening, and so most people in business, or even if you're working in an office and you're looking for a promotion, rejection is going to happen to all of us. You just have to deal with it. You just got to move on. Next. Face your fears. If somebody tells you, in sales, when somebody tells me no again, I don't take that as a personal rejection. I'm just searching for other ways out to make them out to want to hire me or to buy my product. However, you can't win them all, and people will reject you. But the successful people, the winners, the champions in the world, face rejection. And you know what I say? Failure, 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 success. Failure, 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 success. And those are the odds. I believe life is 80% failure. But you can't allow it to take over your life, and you just have to accept it as a part of life.
So when you get a no, when you get a failure, it's like, okay, that's 1 out of 4. I need to get to my next success. So it's just a building block to get to that next success.
I believe if you're not failing enough, you're not succeeding enough, in my humble opinion.
We will leave it at that. That says it all. The book is called Success is Not a Spectator Sport. It's a bestseller in 27 languages. Charles is available for speaking all across the country, has spoken to a number of groups internationally. Information on the book, as well as Charles' background and speaking engagements at his website. Very simple, cmarcus.com, the letter C. Marcus is MARCUS.com. Go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and you can link on directly to Charles's website. His Twitter handle is Charles M. Canada. The C's and the M are capitalized. Charles, it's been a pleasure to have you with us on the program. The book is very easy to read, a lot of great information in there, a lot of great illustrations, things that you went through in your life. So often we hear people talk about success and they were born into a trust fund and all of that, and they've really never had to overcome anything. You've had a number of obstacles along the way. It's sort of your pathway to success. It's worked for so many people, thousands, tens of thousands all across the internationally. Thank you for being with us on the program today.
Rick, I want to thank you. It was a pleasure, and I just want to end on a quote for your viewers, if I may.
Sure.
And I say in my speaking presentations, I say I would rather choke on greatness than nibble on mediocrity.
We will leave it with that. The book is called Success is Not a Spectator Sport. Charles Marcus, our guest on the program. His website is Marcus.com. Information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Stay tuned. We're back after these important messages. We'll be right back.